Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock. A quorum is present. The meeting has been duly constituted, and the first order of business is approval of the agenda. I have a motion and second. Any adds, subtracts, multiplies, divides? Seeing none, call the question. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Public participation. Sir.
Yes, hello.
That's you.
That's me.
Can you state your name for the record and address, please?
Scott McCullough, 41 Brunswick Beach Road.
Welcome.
Thanks. Do I go now?
Yeah.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's fast. So I just wanted to talk about the highway, the stretch between Alberta Creek and Brunswick Beach exit. It's always been a bit of concern, and it seems to be getting even worse just with the amount of accidents we've been having on that stretch. On the weekend I was talking with people in town, and it's like immediately they start talking about the accidents. You know, they've been trapped on the highway, and that's kind of now when they think of Lions Bay, they're thinking of you know, accidents and getting trapped and that sort of thing. Last night I was talking to Cheryl Wozni. Her husband Joe is still recuperating, 2 years later from a head-on crash on that stretch. And when I drive on that stretch, you can see all the places that cars have gone over the medium.
Missing trees
everywhere, and it's obviously dangerous. I think from the differential in speeds, you've got some people going 60 and some people going 110, and that differential makes a lot of danger. I don't know if enforcement or increasing the speed limits or decreasing is going to do anything about that unless you had constant enforcement. Like if we were able to share in revenues from tickets and always have people patrolling it, I mean, that might do something. But the one thing I think that we could do is to mitigate the risk of a head-on collision is to get rid of the shrubs and trees, which are pretty, but I'd much rather have a concrete medium continue from Alberta Creek all the way to the end of Lions Bay, so that we didn't have cars kind of going over the berm as like a launching pad onto oncoming traffic, and hopefully that would reduce some of the risk of what's going on. And I know that I brought this up before in the past. Mayor Broughton, I think she met with Jordan Sturdy about it, and I think it came to the expense and not enough room for concrete medium all the way along the Squamish. But in this case, I think with the amount of money that goes into maintaining the highway department is always there gardening and weeding and dealing with that. If they didn't have that expense of doing that, then I would hope that they could possibly afford to continue the barrier and make it safer.
Thanks. We're in theory not supposed to respond, but I always like to sort of respond directly. So we're well aware of the issue. We share your concerns. I think I speak for everybody on council, including the two members who are out and one ill. And we are doing something about it. It is correct. Our understanding from MOT is that that putting concrete down the middle is a design issue and will cost millions, because they have to widen the highway by X number of feet, maybe only 2, but something, in order to meet highway standards. Of course, half the village would resist that because they are very pleased to have the plantings, which are not a highway compatible type thing. We all know that. So I guess it's sort of probably high time that I do a piece in the municipal update on what we are doing. But so I won't go into huge detail. But funnily enough, I actually sent a letter today. Oh, wow. A councillor was copied to the Minister of Justice because I had approached her and her department for return to speed cameras.
Okay, yeah.
In very, very special cases, of which I would contend Lions Bay is one such very special case. Yeah. There's some resistance to that because of some promises made in the past by Christie's, should I say Mrs. Clark's predecessor. So we're looking at several things with the Ministry of Justice. We're also looking at several things with MOTI, including remodeling the speed limits, potentially doing away with 60 to do away with this high differential, restaggering the signs, increased jumbo signs they call them, dynamic enunciators, your speed is whatever it is things, Traffic lights at a new level, artificial level crossing, dynamically operating depending on traffic volume and speed. We are well aware of this, and we don't like it any more than you do, up to the extent that the issues are twofold for the village as a whole. It's emotionally and money costly on our fire department, like the accident that happened. As the fire chief said to us, lots of blood. That's not cool. They're actually having their debrief as we speak. And the other is the constant noise, especially from motorcycles, especially on fine days, as they whip through here at 160. Yeah. So it is a fundamental issue that we're well aware of. Jordan Sturdy, our MLA, is aware of it. He used to be the Parliamentary Undersecretary for Department of Transport, but unfortunately he's moved. So we don't have as immediate representation. But I'm working pretty hard at provincial, district, and locally.
Yeah, well, it's got to be impacting the whole corridor, right? I mean, just the way.
Well, as a final point, also working with Whistler, because if we have an accident in the morning in the winter, Whistler doesn't have a ski day, and so it's extremely important to them. They've started this thing called Highway Accident Response Protocol or something, but it's only about a third there, and I've said so already. So I've been dealing with their CAO and their mayor, because it's important. We are the bottleneck, and this, as you clearly recognise, this stretch through Lions Bay is tricky.
Yeah, because of the exits and entrances.
Because of the short on-ramps, the radiuses that have been made, in theory, according to highway design, let's call them experiments, the theory of these short radius turns was to slow traffic down. It doesn't work. The municipal furniture along, the trees, the signage, that's all supposed to slow people down. That doesn't work either. So,
well, one question about the median in that part. That would have enough room for a concrete barrier where the trees currently sit, would it not?
There are some parts where it would, yes. Yeah, that's what we believe. There's more to it than meets the eye because of the covenants that were made to get the trees in the first place.
Well, that's great. I mean, it sounds like it's.
So the short answer is we're well aware of it, and we're not sitting on our hands waiting for things. Would you say that was fair, Council?
Actually, Scott, I can tell you that I've been in meetings with Mayor Burr, with the senior elected representatives federally and provincially. These are almost the first words to come out of his mouth after hello. He's always talking about the highway.
Yeah. It's a huge problem.
It is a huge problem, and we're well aware, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, I actually looked at the stats today to write to the Minister of Justice, because I've had this letter drafted for some time, but as a result of the accident on the weekend, I said it's time to push the button on it. 20,000 vehicles a day in summer weekends. That's a lot.
Yeah.
The design capacity is 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're already above it, and we're expecting 6,000 dwelling units to be erected in Squamish in the next 3 years. There's something happening potentially at Britannia that may or may not happen, but the Squamish thing apparently is a done deal. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to get less traffic. So thanks for bringing it up. You're not the only one, and certainly at this table we're very well aware of the issues.
Great.
And pursuing it, as Ron says, pretty assiduously.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Scott. Thanks very much. Right, so we'll move on. Seeing no other public participation, we'll move to delegations. There being none, we'll move to adoption of the minutes. Changes, adds, subtracts.
I have none, Carl, other than to comment that I really note the cleanliness of the minutes.
Yeah, the minutes seem a lot more succinct and good. The only thing that I had was that we didn't get regrets from Councillor Hughes. He was absent. Do we care? I mean, at some point I would like to report council attendance. Do we want to make the distinction? No, probably not.
Absent. I think on the absence on council members, which is the time to do it, is when you do the annual report kind of thing and run the deal and just go through the minutes and you can see who's there or not.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, I mean, as we know, it would be nice to have an actual regrets rather than not showing up. But okay, we'll leave that one. That's all I have. Everything else is pretty dang good.
Just one comment.
No, one more is in fact.
On page 5 of 92, I don't mean to nitpick, but
On the request for financial reports, be it resolved that the village council discusses the need of quarterly financial reporting. Shouldn't we have identifies the need? I think that was more to my understanding of it. I mean, do we
Yeah, I didn't pick that one up. I mean, what actually happened there was we reiterated the existing understanding that we would receive quarterly financial reports 6 weeks after the end of the period. That's what happened there. And I distinctly remember the discussion. Correct, Ron?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so, Shauna, you may need to go back to the recording on that one. But what it was, and I don't think we made a resolution.
No.
I don't think we did a resolution, because
No.
I think it was gonna happen anyhow.
Well, it says here carried, so we must
moved
have.
second, so we obviously did it.
Yeah,
We moved in second to discuss something?
yeah,
It just
exactly.
seemed
I'll go
kind
back
of-
and listen.
Yeah, can you check that one?
I think this was how it was worded in the report, though. I wasn't at the meeting, but I think this was the wording from the report, and you probably just read it right from the report.
Possibly, but I don't believe that we moved second and resolved
I don't
anything.
think we did a resolution.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be important to get that, because the resolution is binding. The only other one I had was under section 15 on the next page. It was reporting out from the closed meeting. I don't believe that I'd like to say we're the successful resident members. I would prefer to say we're the resident members selected. I mean, it's a nicety, but that's more like what would happen. And then we'd have to fix that in subsequent yellow minutes as well. You go,
Resident members selected?
yeah. So just delete successful and put selected at the end.
Okay.
But given the fact that Shauna needs to go back and check 8C1, we'll table acceptance of the minutes. Okay, so do we have to resolve that? Resolved to table?
Don't think so, do
I
we
think
just
we
not
do, right?
adopt?
Yeah, it's just, it's not carried, it becomes tabled and moves over to.
But don't we have to resolve to table it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so motion to table and a second, all in favour, opposed, carried. Okay, good, so business arising, starting on page 9. I didn't talk to, oh, I'm jumping the gun, so we'll start at number 1. Carried over, I assume, Pam?
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks. And obviously, item 2 is carrying over because Nikki's still out. Fred, 3.
Oh, yeah, we were going to do the emergency planning committee in November when Nikki gets back.
Yeah,
So
and you started that ball rolling, I know, so we can let it carry along.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Pam, do you have any idea what the street name descriptions mean on the monthly report?
I don't, but when we were discussing it, apparently a while ago, prior to my working here, there was some talk about just removing the street name altogether because of privacy.
Actually, it was removed for a while for
And then it started to appear
identification
again.
purposes of different stuff, so.
I'm good with that.
So that
yeah.
could be maybe the next,
So maybe I would
change
say,
it to
I'd say
remove
let's
it.
just have them deleted.
yeah, just instruct the fire department, or when it comes to the report, just remove PID if you can.
I think with emergency services, there's always an attempt to respect a person's privacy. And I think anytime we talk about addresses or whatever, we're identifying someone who may not want to be. We're not trying to amplify the misery of an incident.
Yeah, I think sometimes the street name is more sort of sort of an MVA type of thing. I would be more interested from a data standpoint. You know, if we have 90% of the MVAs in the village at the corner of Mountain and Main, now I'd like to know that. But council minutes is probably not the place for that. Okay, so what we'll take that one off, Shauna, with the proviso that staff will ensure that personally identifiable data is no longer included in the emergency services reports. Yeah, good. Okay. And I meant to call Ruth Simons today, and I didn't. Sorry. So we'll just carry that one over. I got a reminder from the Clean Air Society. We've got about 3 weeks to decide if we're going to spend the $300 to join. I would suggest we do, but I want to hear from Ruth if that's a good idea. There may be other, whatever.
Am I checking that one off?
No, leave it on, please.
No?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to land use plan report on page 11. There's a recommendation to accept, and then it goes on and says some other things that I'm not quite comfortable with. So I'll take a motion to receive in a second, but in terms of discussion, thanks. I would say that the recommendation needs to read that the Village of Lions Bay receives the 2014 plan as one input into future land use strategies, full stop. Because that's, I believe, what we discussed and resolved or planned to do in the committee of the whole, in the council strategy session where we discussed this. In fact, I'm not quite sure, Pam, do you remember why this didn't come to us last council meeting? So
I
because
think she just was simply, she was too busy to get.
didn't we accept it already?
I thought we
It was
did. I mean,
tabled.
it's actually, talk about getting bored to death on the same topic.
Yeah.
It seems like we're looking at this every council meeting. And I
It's
thought-
certainly the third time I've seen the report in the package.
I thought there was some minor
tabled.
change to it, some minor wordsmithing to it,
To the
pending our
report?
receipt, yeah.
Why would it have been tabled, Shauna?
I can't remember now.
I don't want to say let's table it again, but I want to get this right because it's contentious.
Let's table it again, it's fine.
Yeah. And then,
I
I'm-
think she'd go with your suggested recommendation.
yeah, the other thing was part and parcel of the report were the public comments on the thing. 300 pages of public commentary, which I think should form part of the input from the plan. So,
Well, I was thinking that, excuse me, as it says here, refers to it as a strategy. It would be a strategy that the people doing the next OCP could refer to. How big do you want to make it? You only have so much time when you're doing the OCP that you're going to sort of pick and choose bits and pieces out of this that you think is worthwhile and omit the rest.
I started reading some of the public commentary, and now with the hindsight of having sat at this table for a year, some of them are very valid comments, and some of them are misinformation, disinformation, misunderstanding. It doesn't make them any less valid as what people believe. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's only one potential input into the future OCP, which I think we're heading towards saying that is going to encapsulate the land use strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And then plans come out as they develop over the course of years. But I didn't have time to, in fact, I couldn't actually find the minutes of 2 council meetings ago why we didn't receive it then.
Would that have been-
Well, I'm sure there was wordsmithing, there was some minor additions to this.
Okay, let's table it again then, pending resolution of the remaining outstanding things and rework of the recommendation. You good with that? Okay, so we'll,
Sean, can you make sure that in that background, could you draw a bullet point as to why it's coming forward again? So we don't have this discussion in 2 weeks?
okay, so how does this work parliamentary-wise now? Sorry, go on.
Can you repeat the resolution again for me?
Blah, 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 and then delete after the comma, starting at, and as such,
So ending at strategies?
ending as strategies, and maybe we can suggest, but this is now tabled, so up to staff to come forward with the new resolution, but I would suggest that it also says public commentary on the report will be provided at the same time, or something like that. And we've all seen it, and it's available on the web, and it's all there. But if we're receiving the report, we need to receive the commentary on it as well. That was the whole point of the report, was a public-facing document. Does it make enough sense for now? I'll work with Anne to get the thing right for the next time. And perhaps also you can make a note. Just remind us why it's come, because frankly, I thought we'd received it already.
Yeah, I get you.
I seem to remember voting on it. So parliamentary-wise, we are going to amend the motion and vote on the amended motion, which is to table the report, table acceptance, and then whoever moves, one of you two guys, the original motion can withdraw it. So the amended motion is to table the report, pending further discussion with staff. Can I have a motion on that one and a second? All in favour, opposed, carried. Councillor McLaughlin, would you care to withdraw your original motion?
Yes.
Thank you. So we'll move on. Reports.
If I can go first.
Please.
Council, please.
We're going for the record here.
For the record, and I speak on behalf of Jim Hughes, And he's giving a heads up that on the tree committee, which he heads his trees, views, and whatever the fancy name is, that with one of the members moving out of the village, there'll be a new name put forward for council's consideration at the next council meeting. And so that's from him. From me, the finance committee members have all been spoken to by me, and so they've graciously appreciated our thank yous for their service. Carl, if you could either drop them a note or an email.
I'll do that.
Either or. But then I think probably you and I should sit with them for an hour and a half one evening and get their homework assignments.
Get the homework out, what we can, yeah.
So I'm thinking, why don't you and I email tomorrow and figure out a couple of dates, and then we'll pitch it to them.
We can do that at somebody's home if you like.
I'd offer mine or yours.
Let's do that because they're no longer a committee. It's less formal. We can
We're
sit
just
around
receiving
and
information.
chew the fat.
I'm sure that's fine, Pam. Yes.
Yeah, there's no quorum of council.
No,
It's just
so
you.
let's start with yours and my diary, and then we'll throw it out for a couple of dates. So
Okay,
I'll take
great.
care of that.
Would they be amenable to that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Great.
And the last piece is that I'm going to be meeting with CFO Rook sometime between Tuesday and Wednesday next week to go over the financial calendar and allow some time for discussion so that it's a robust financial calendar. And so the draft should come forward at the next council meeting along with the quarterly financial information and brief write-up. Yes?
Yes,
Thank
just
you.
given Wednesday is a holiday, and I'm off for the rest of the week, I was thinking maybe next Thursday or Friday.
Oh, that's
Would be
fine.
better? Okay.
As long as you get us in the agenda. Okay.
Anything to report from CAO, CFO, any other hats that you have available?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
I have something for the closed meeting, but not.
Fine. I have nothing in particular. Fred, do you want to just give a brief update, because really only Ron that needs to know on what's happening with the infrastructure committee?
Oh, yeah, we're, excuse me, we're gonna be getting, we got a brief update will be coming through from ACOM. They missed their last infrastructure meeting and they're gonna send it through Ann pretty soon. We have our next infrastructure meeting with the IMP discussion on the following Monday.
Next Monday.
Not next Monday.
Yeah.
So.
Will AECOM be there this time?
I have no reason to believe he's not. It's in part of
And
the
his
agreement.
deputy, or his deputy if he can't make it, type of thing?
Yeah, I'll confirm that by Friday.
Yeah, so they sent this update. That it was,
The hard copy came.
yeah, it
in
was,
soft format.
yeah, it was pretty good. It was okay. Once you read between the lines and inserted words where it obviously dropped them through inadequate copywriting, but it was okay. We provided some comments back to them to answer some questions they had, clarification and so on.
So they're kind of back on schedule.
I don't know if I'd be so. I don't know. I don't think they gave us enough information to tell that.
Okay.
I mean, we asked the fundamental question: are we going to get what we need at a $150,000 budget to provide a master plan, which means from soup to nuts for 20 years? And that's the answer. You know, if he says yes, then I'll tell you the answer to that question.
Yeah, the problem we had was there was a change in the person running the thing for us right at the beginning. So the guy that's taken over the thing has been playing catch up the whole time. He thinks he's going to meet the end date on it correctly. But we'll see.
We'll see.
I think the input I think I passed the email around. Yeah, he seemed to receive our input quite well. So.
Oh no, I didn't see his response to your feedback email.
Oh, okay. I'll send that to you in the morning then.
It'd just be interesting. Well, we can also learn about it all on Monday. Okay, so that's that.
I didn't go too hard on him because after all, his team came second in the Rugby World Cup. So I thought he'd be gentle.
Yeah. You don't have to be gentle with those guys.
Sorry, I digress.
He's Australian, in case you're wondering. Okay, so that's it for reports, I believe. Yes?
Yep.
I don't believe Helen had anything for me to tell. Jim, you took care of. Okay, good. So we'll move on to resolutions. This starts on page 57. Now,
There are no resolutions. We go to bylaws.
Sorry, I thought we had to resolve to accept it. Okay, good. So no resolutions. We'll move on to bylaws, page 57. Now I'm with you. Thank you. My one concern here was, I believe that we asked for, and I don't seem to recall having seen it, the analysis of what had changed from the original bylaw. I see here on the background on point 1 that there were slight changes to the previous reading, sure. But I still have always had in the back of my mind, why this, of all the many bylaws that could use revision, why this one from 1984, and what was changed? Did we ever get that answer?
We never saw the lined, or lined.
We never saw the line version.
No.
So I'm not prepared to do third reading on this one, because we still haven't actually seen why, the justification for this, or what's changed.
In the last council, the then CAO McRadu brought it to council's attention late in the last year of the term, and just
Because it was old, or because there was an error?
because the waiving of increased compensation countered our aims in the existing bylaws of the rate of inflation, or the CPI, or whatever it was.
For indemnification?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was thinking remuneration.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar, but
I apologize.
that's a
for
different
that.
Asian.
The indemnification, to me, this came out of nowhere.
Came out of nowhere to me as well. So I would suggest that we return this to staff with a request for clarification on a red line and strikeout version on the current bylaw, which is the 1984, 1974. It's a quite old bylaw. And we, if you remember, what happened, it just appeared in the package with no recommendation, no discussion of why it was there. We did first and second reading on that because there seemed to be a time issue, but we've never had any further information. So coming from second to third reading, there's now some discussion about what's changed, a slight change being made, blah, 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 between second and third readings, to correct some typos, it looks like. So I don't think we're in a position to, because once we've done third reading, that's it. Next is adoption, correct?
Yeah.
So let's defer. Because this is not tabled; it's deferred until we get because I distinctly remember asking for what's changed and why.
Basically, marked up original bylaw.
Marked up original bylaw,
Showing
yeah.
the differences between the two.
And perhaps a slight treatment of what was the why. You know, what's the philosophical requirement? Okay, all good for that. So I believe we have to move and second that. So the motion is to defer with additional instructions to staff, which you have adequately, I believe, Shona. Yeah. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Ron.
Thank you. It's blessedly short. TransLink likes to announce that Compass has arrived. Enough said on that. That's the first one. The second one is the civics registration, which is LGMA opportunity, which looks like a split deal to show off the TELUS garden, their new property, which was on Georgia Street. Long story short, it's $185 to, and I quote, learn about new ideas for local governments with a whole day of amazing stories. I'm going to suggest not for me, which then takes us to the last one is Chair Moore writes to you on the GBRD about shaping the future of the annual report, no response necessary.
Yeah, correct.
Which brings us to the two resident ones, which if I can go through this and hand this back. One is from resident Hallstrom, who has an issue with the rail line making a lot of noise and racket late at night. She's trying to contact the head office without success, and she's just lobbed the ball our way. The other one is from resident Sredsky, who believes that the center line should be repainted white in our village.
No, on the highway.
99,
Yeah.
and he also says that individual resident success has been low, and the municipality seems to be able to make things happen. So I'll come back to this to you, Carl, but I'm also going to add something, if I may, which we should talk about, because I think there's a date sensitive. If you recall your council email, something about a resident with a birthday.
Oh yeah, that was supposed to be in here. I was supposed to be in
It
here.
was maybe after the cutoff or something like
Yeah,
that,
maybe.
but it,
Okay, so that's a
the magic
policy
was the
issue.
14th, was the date for the resident, and
Yeah,
a family member had asked council to acknowledge
yeah.
the resident's birthday.
This is a 28-year resident and their 85th birthday, I believe. So, I mean, on the face of it, sure, but you know, that does then open up. You know, do we then write a letter to everybody? Everybody who has a birthday? Only people who've been here a certain number of years? Only somebody over a certain age? I'm quite happy to do it, but I think we should establish some
Well, I'm pretty
thresholds.
happy to write happy birthday to anybody, or welcome home, or safe trip home, or...
1,400 times a year.
Maybe
I'm
just
sure
upon
this-
request.
Yeah.
Well, my mother had her 85th. We infestooned her front lawn with 85 pink flamingos.
So,
We could
Do
be
you
quick.
still have those?
you heard the story about the guy who invented them, didn't you?
No.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, I think that's probably right, Pam. Just upon request.
Yeah, so I think yes, and let's make it so that we don't get another email.
Fine, I'll take care of that.
Can you
Yeah,
put the crayon mark around that one?
yeah.
Okay, so that's the third one. The other one, which was resident Hallstrom,
I don't see what the ask is there.
there is none.
I can add to that. I understand there's been a fair amount of frustration with the people at Brunswick with where they've got the second rail there. They've been parking CN rail cars
Yep.
there. They've been asked not to. They said they're not going to. My wife and I were out walking last week. It was a whole string of train cars parked well away from the intersection, and then well away from the other side of the intersection. So they are doing it. So if they're going to be doing it, they're going to be shunting them, and they're going to be causing a lot of banging. So if they're not shunting them, there won't be any banging. So we could sort of knock this one off for her with just asking them to live up to what they promised to do us in the first
But now,
place.
who says they promised that? Because the last I spoke to CN, to our government liaison, something, who we've lost, by the way, and there's a new one, but they haven't, I think they start this week. So I talked to the Western Regional Manager, whose boss is the boss of this person, and this new person is going to introduce themselves quite soon. But my understanding from CN is, yes, they have a marshalling yard there, and it's more than 2 tracks. I think it's about 4 at certain points. You know, that's that, and they store trains there. The only thing they've undertaken is not to store hazardous cargoes.
Well, during our last term, the issue came up with residents' complaints, and at that time, going through Brunswick, it was 2 lanes only, and they said the reason for the second lane was when you've got a northbound and southbound meeting, you need a passing lane, and that was all what they were saying they were going to do with it. And the mayor at the time challenged them on the parking of them, and they said, oh no, we're not planning on parking them. So I don't know what's changed from those years to these years.
Do you have any documentation of that you're aware of?
It might be difficult to hunt it up.
It might be in the minutes.
I couldn't tell you which meeting it was, though.
Yeah.
They could call to Lions Bay Avenue and get that one pretty quick.
Or Brunswick Road.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about Brunswick and go right to the northern end of the frontage road, and then look beyond there over the bridge over Alberta Creek, there's quite a yard there.
Alberta? Or do you mean M Creek?
No, Alberta. Just to the north of Alberta Creek.
Oh, yeah.
This,
Like going right through the rail crossing at Brunswick is 2 lanes, though.
yeah, but 300-400 meters north of there. There's a marshalling yard. It's at least 4 tracks, maybe 6.
Really? Didn't know that.
And so, I mean, I know this is not the area being talked about now, but there's plenty of storage of stuff. And the only thing they've given sort of a fairly informal undertaking to me on, anyway, verbally, was that they do not they do not park hazardous cargoes. You notice that that doesn't imply that they don't bring hazardous cargoes through Lions Bay.
Right.
They say they don't have any customers with hazardous cargoes today, but there's no understanding they wouldn't actually ship hazardous cargoes through Lions Bay. So this is at Lions Bay Avenue, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a train line running through our village. I don't like it any more than they do, but there's nothing we can do about it. Well, not in theory, no, but go ahead.
The controlled crossing is missing at Lions Bay Avenue, right? If we had Kiln Grove, Brunswick Beach, and a controlled crossing at Lions Bay Avenue, I think they said that they could stop honking the horn. That's what I heard years ago.
Oh, whistle cessation is a whole different issue.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
this is shunting, banging and
just
crashing.
shunting, huh?
Yeah.
And banging and crashing the cars.
Yeah, whistles. Yes, and we're working on that one too,
Right.
believe it or not. But this is banging and crashing. I don't think it happens that often. I mean, you know, I sympathise. I don't see what we're supposed to do about this. I can certainly.
Lives on Audi.
Yeah, well, which is right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll certainly mention it to CM. That's.
Okay, I don't take a response to the residents.
I don't have an email address, and I'm certainly not going to write a letter or send a carrier
Well,
pigeon.
they're not asking for a response.
Yeah. But I mean, I want to tell them that we're aware of
Okay.
it, doing something.
Well,
Could staff say
It's not
the mayor will talk to his
and put
liaison?
in the same thing for Mr. Sredsky too, that next time we talk.
Okay, well, that was a slightly different issue. I looked at the lines on the highway. They are freshly painted as in the last few weeks. They're not reflective, however. So is that the distinction that he's asking for? High vis, reflective paint.
Yeah, repainting of the reflective lines
Yeah.
of Highway 99.
Okay, so again, I can ask MOT.
Yep.
I will give you very low odds on any success there because they've just painted. You know, when they are very proud of the investment in signage. So you know, the big "Welcome to Lions Bay." It's sort of the size that you would enter Surrey on. Next 3 exits. Well, they won't take it down because they spent money on it.
Okay.
Okay, so CN banging and crashing. It's a technical railway term. And MOT, reflective lines, I will take care of that. We have a new MOT rep as well. The old guy, Graham Shempf, has moved. And we have a new guy called Don Rideau. Haven't met him yet. It took me sending an email to Shempf to find that out. The mayor rolled his eyes, if you want to put it in the notes. Okay, fine. So that's it for correspondence, I believe. We'll now move on to reports and new business. You've read the recommendation on the CAO recruitment process. ICAO Jansius recommends that we select 3 members of council for an interview panel. This is for the short list, which will comprise, I understand, somewhere between 3 and 4 candidates. My druthers is that the whole council interviews these people. That's my preference. I've already told you that I felt that there was something flawed in the previous process, that we sort of just presented a fait accompli in terms of a ranked list to council, and you were sort of just taking it for granted that we got it right. I think it would be, I mean, you know, this is the person that's council's sole employee, as it were. I think it behooves us to interview them.
Top 3?
Top 3 or 4, yeah, as I understand it. So it says here, 10 to 12 will be pre-screened through telephone interview, that's by Anne, with no more than 3 to 4 candidates moving forward to the interview process. That's what we're talking about here.
Okay. Talking with Jim today, he was fine with that. I guess on his piece, which is mine, is that I guess through Anne, that there's some staff thinking in this too.
I assume that's going to be in the shortlist process, in the shortlisting, long
I'm not sure where
listing
that
process.
piece of mix is, but
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just going by the recommendation here that 3 members of council would go for the CAO interview panel. I would say it's all 5 members of council, and that's it. And presumably Anne would sit in on the interview panel.
and represent staff.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say that we without a motion and second yet, that the recommendation should read that the Village of Lions Bay Council selects all 5 members of council for the CAO interview panel.
Could we put as available? Because some of the interviews I hear, I'll be away on that conference in Vancouver.
Fine, you can sort of proxy your questions to somebody else.
Yeah, and I think Jim often is having a day job and everything, he
Yeah.
may not be able to make each one.
Yeah. Well, I would hope that we set it up so that it can. But if you look at the schedule here, the interviews, there's a 2-day period at the end of the month. The days are set. You know, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, I was thinking the 19th, I will probably be away at the, see, I got 17, 18, and 19, I'll be at the conference.
Mm. Well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. I would suggest that we're all on the panel and all have a say. I mean, if you can't be there, obviously you can't provide much input, but you can certainly react to the report.
Sure.
Okay, so that's a motion on the table. Can I have a second, seeing as I moved it? And any further discussion? Pam, anything to say about that? You happy with that? Do you think that'll fly?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay, so all in favour? Opposed? That carries. Thanks. And I've lost my agenda. Here it is here. Municipal grants.
Municipal grants.
This is you, Pam?
Yes.
Okay.
This was a report for information on the municipal grant process. It's starting again for the 2016 grants. The applications will go out next week. I've attached a copy of the application. The only change I've made to it from previous years, I've added a requirement that if a municipal grant was received in the prior year, that we have a breakdown of how it was spent, just to give us some additional information. I know we asked for financial statements, but sometimes they don't have that level of detail. And I was also recommending one other change, that in January at a council strategy meeting, any group requesting a grant greater than $1,000 come to a council strategy meeting to do a 5-minute presentation, and that gives council an opportunity to ask questions, and they will have seen the applications prior to that, because the applications are due December 31st. So I think that will help the process and make it easier for council to make a decision on which grants they grant.
Will staff have seen a similar presentation before, or will this be the first time that staff get to see the dog and pony show?
It'll be the same time as staff. Like last year, we just looked at the applications
Yeah.
and there was no presentation.
Yeah.
And just sometimes there were questions I couldn't answer. And I know there were sometimes emails going back and forth between Hari and the candidates, because he was actually here last year when the process started. So I thought it just gave an opportunity to get people here, give a presentation. And
Yeah, I mean, so
brief.
as to that,
Very brief
I like the
summary.
idea, but what if we don't need it at all? What if the application is such a slam dunk that it would just be a waste of 5 minutes? Do we sit through it anyway, or
We could make that decision.
to
But
say
if we
on
s-
request? Should be prepared to make a 5-minute presentation.
I like the idea of letting them know, because
We're good to return. After a mere 30-second stop.
I'm in agreement, Carl, with you. I mean, I'm sure that they'd be happy to come forward, but it might not be the best use of their time.
Or maybe we say at council's option then. Where is that piece in here, Pam? I saw it in here, so I know it exists.
I wrote it, so I know it exists.
Yeah.
I did see
Or maybe it's in the
Top
recommendation.
of the second page, groups requesting funds would be required to
Yeah.
make a brief presentation.
May be required, I would say.
Okay.
The piece that I've got is some of these groups have got significant high 4-figure cash balances, and they're asking for high 4-figure grants. That doesn't quite resonate with me in terms of what's the money for. And I was wondering how kind of we can deal with this in the front.
Well, I think that's taken care of by requiring financial statements, balance sheet and P&L.
It is, they may not have 2015 financial statements though.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
good point, yeah.
And that was
in fact,
actually,
they likely won't, the bigger ones won't, which would be the arts group.
Yeah, I mean, if they're saving 4 figures for some good reason, then, you know, that doesn't disqualify
Well,
them
I-
from a granting, yeah.
I think this was actually the exact reason I wanted to come in. It would just be one committee, the whole.
Okay.
For that very reason. I find sometimes you go back and forth with emails, it's time consuming, you don't get the answers. And if they're right here, we could just address it, and if there were any questions,
Okay.
it would just be a committee.
So the
of whole.
financial statements would be as of a certain date?
Usually
Would be the most
calendar year.
recent, so it would probably be
Or what if
December
they don't do
31st,
their books but
2014.
every 5 years? Okay, well, that's
Well, the
agreed.
alternate.
What if they haven't got for the last? The last they did was July
And
31.
in terms of the financial statements, I mean, we asked more detailed questions, and I would actually be more interested in finding out how they spent last year's grant. Did they spend it all? And what did they spend it on? And
Yeah.
that's one of the questions I've added.
That's true. I mean, we're not in the business of funding reserves.
Mhm.
If they need money for some big expense later,
Mhm.
in general, other than the fire department, we're not funding reserves.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's see how it goes. So I had one question. This section B, the project information. This sort of presupposes that there's a project, but what if the request is simply just for annual operations? Is that really funding information? Because I mean,
I think basically it's the amount requested. We call it a project, but they would just outline why they wanted the funds. For example, some of the smaller ones, the plant gardeners, they just literally want the funds just to buy, operating, they just want to buy some plants. So I think they...
would the word not be, a better word not be than program information?
Sure, program.
Because that sort of speaks to an annual thing rather than a thing that starts, happens and finishes.
Yeah. Like basically we're asking for an explanation of what they want the money for.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the
And,
word project, which...
Yeah, no, and I think that's well taken. I can change it to program.
Program
'Cause
might
we're
be
implying
better.
There's a specific
Yeah, and there's project everywhere. And then there were one other thing. Sorry to dominate here, guys.
Sorry.
How will this? How will the fact that the application needs to be in by the 31st of December be promulgated?
We are, I think I addressed that in the report, but I'm adding something else as well. We put it on e-post, we put it on our website, and then I noticed last year we actually sent emails to prior, and we will do that as well. And I think we've covered it off by doing that. A direct email to anyone who was given a grant last year, e-post and website.
The only
And probably maybe I apologize,
Sure.
the bulletin board, maybe we could put something up, municipal grants do.
the only three groups who got over $1,000 were the events committee, the arts council, and the play school. So, which probably is 80% of the.
Yeah, I think there may have been one or two that didn't apply because it was left too late for them. Now that's their problem, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I would like everybody to have a fair shake. So and this time we will because it's the process is well understood. Fred?
Well, I think the ESS group as well has a significant ask, but last I met with them, they're most of the way to having their budget finalized anyhow. But
Which group, Fred?
ESS?
Oh, sorry.
And we actually don't require this application from them, it's sort of a given,
Yeah,
we
that's
give them the
not-
money, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
we get more information than you asked for.
Carl, I think this is worth 2 lines in your weekly commentary.
Yeah, that's true. There will be one new multi-$1,000 one. It would be the
Yes,
the
seniors.
age-friendly, the senior 55 plus thing,
Yeah.
because as you will see here, as you will have seen in the package, the external funding was a one-off. So okay, that's good. I like it, Pam. I can't see any holes. I think it's covering the holes that we identified this past time around, right? I like the financials. That's, I think, a gimme now. Anything else? Okay, so, I mean, this you're not asking for approval,
Nope.
because
It
it's
was
an
just really
administrative thing.
to keep you in the
Just
loop that, I realized I'm on course for the rest of this week, so the applications will go at the beginning of next week.
yeah.
And,
I think on the financial calendar too, I think that I'm going to speculate these groups like to get their funding early so they can do their programs and not use personal borrowings or however they juggle their stuff. So I think we should be working towards getting the dollars out as quickly as possible.
Another reason to get the budget finalized and
Yeah,
approved
so
as
it
soon
all
as possible.
kind of
Because
goes-
otherwise they're self-financing for some time.
Yeah, and that's, it's like having a big credit limit. We'll show you the money, but we won't give it to you.
Yeah.
Historically, we are consistent though in terms there's like a year between when they get the money, because we generally do not give the money until the budget's adopted.
We don't fund it in cash, yeah, sure, but
So it's in the.
We let them know it's
financial
coming, but it comes.
But yeah, especially for the new people, specifically the 55 plus program, that means they won't be funded until May. So what are they supposed to do until May? Collect cash donations to
Something we could maybe ask them, would they have provision for that, or?
well, they don't even have a bank
Can
account.
we do an interim for them?
I don't think so. I don't think that's kosher. They may have to fund it themselves and repay themselves. I don't know, but that would be up to you, Pam.
Let's
Okay, so
look at
let's.
that.
I think this is.
Sorry, my idea is like a provisional budget. on just this narrow section?
Well, as you know, I think this is one of the things that we do.
I mean, but waiting 5 months is not what we do.
Especially if you're a new program.
Or
But
one
even not.
Or one that's spring concentric. So, okay, so I'm thinking here for that, we should, that's for
I mean, I
the-
know it wasn't an issue last year. We paid it out in May last year because the budget wasn't adopted to May, but I take your point on seniors starting the program
Okay.
in January because
I've got this on my list. We'll chat
Yeah,
again.
I mean, that will require a policy decision on how we pre-fund these things,
Yeah.
given that the budget is a fairly formal process and has to be filed with the province before it's real. And go through public hearing. So, you know, pre-funding in cash is a bit of a challenge.
What a killjoy.
I'll look into it though. I mean, because
It's
essentially,
municipality, man.
I think we're covered actually because it's in the 5-year plan. Because essentially, the second year of our 5-year plan kicks
Right.
in because we pay salaries.
I knew there was a
and
get
we
out.
pay-
Okay, we'll find a loophole
So-
here somehow. Sorry, a thinking out of the box remedy for all of this. Thank you, which you've already given me the answer on this, it's in the 5-year plan.
It's in the 5-year plan, yeah.
Thank you.
So we can pre-fund the
Yes,
approved plan in the second year.
provisional fund.
Okay, good. So move receipt, second. And any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favour, opposed, carries. If I did that too fast, say so. Encroachment request, page 87. You've read the report. What you may not be aware of is the staff recommendation. Now, it's not in here. Anne mentioned this to me yesterday, and I asked for an indication of what encroachments had been grandfathered in the encroachment bylaw of 2004. That schedule is not forthcoming. I've also asked for encroachment requests that were denied and approved subsequent to the bylaw, under the terms of the bylaw, which was issued in 2004. We don't have that yet, so we're missing a bit of data. However, Anne did give me, and I didn't realize it wasn't in the report until I found it again in my notebook, a report from Public Works, the salient, which you're welcome to look at. It's actually a pretty good piece of work where Will, Emo, goes through the zoning bylaw, the encroachment bylaw, and the building bylaw to come up to backstop his recommendation, which is the salient issue. I think that this application should be denied in whole. So I would suggest, if you want to take time to read this, I'm afraid I only got the one copy, but that is the succinct summary with a lot of collateral and justification. So I would suggest we take that as the staff recommendation that's missing from the package in terms of our debate on this. So I'll read the recommendation that the Council of Lions Bay denies the application for encroachment at 555 Upper Bayview Road. So that would be the motion. Could I have that? Can I have a mover and a seconder? Now discussion.
It's a staff function.
Took the words out of my mouth. I'm not sure why we're having to do
Staff
that.
function.
There is
and,
provision in the encroachment bylaw for council to authorize an encroachment.
Countering the staff's recommendation. We've done all the work.
Correct, and the encroachment bylaw specifically states, and I'll just quote from Will's pretty good analysis, which is, I mean, it's possible that we may want to defer this because you may want to form, sort of a considered, educated opinion. This is a 3-pager, but the salient point here is it's all about walls and blah blah blah. Would be covered under the encroachment policy at the discretion of council if they were to be considered and would have to satisfy the exceptional circumstances requirement, and if the same outcome cannot be achieved effectively by locating the accessory structure, the wall, on private property or through other means. So the point also that's made here by Will in terms of this specific property is that until the work started being done, this new work of moving rocks around and rebuilding walls, the natural grade did fall within the private property barrier. It's only because of the work that's now been done that the hill has sort of moved downhill somewhat. Now, I happen to know this one because it's 4 houses up from me. and it's been going on for about 2 weeks. So there's a lot of work being done.
Illinois across the creek.
Yeah, well, it's,
Okay, I'm very familiar with
lots
it.
of big blocks being moved around. It looks very good, but
Looks nice.
unfortunately, for the slope that it's ended up at, and that there are drawings here, not really drawings. One of the requirements of the encroachment bylaw, or maybe it's the building bylaw, as Will says, is before you can do this, you have to get a new survey, and so that's what this survey results from. This survey is this month, October 15. So then there's some hand sketches on this thing to show that there's an encroachment, if I read it correct, of about 4 feet into village property. Now, in general, it has to be exceptional circumstance. As you know, we've faced another request. It's not been formally requested yet. But the reason that there's a road allowance is for potential future utilities, sidewalks, things that we don't know about yet, something that the infrastructure committee is looking at, the in-street utility vaults. It would have to be exceptionally exceptional to agree to an encroachment onto village property. At the very least, there would be a land sale arrangement. You don't get to just use some public property for your wall
I'll ask after the fact.
and ask after the fact.
Well, I think to me that's the big deal. Exceptional circumstances where
I've done it already.
well, that's not, that's not an exceptional circumstance.
No, I'm
That's-
afraid not.
That's a oops situation, so
I mean, the guiding principle.
probably would change my viewpoint.
Yeah, the guiding principle here is these sorts of things, whether it's a zoning variance, building bylaw variance, is undue hardship. There's no undue hardship. It's the kind of hardship faced by everybody in Lions Bay. Steep slopes, rock walls.
Well, my concern on the thing is that there's always the understanding that if you're going to build onto the road allowance, anything you put there is vulnerable to any works that the public works has to do, whether it's trenching, ditching, or whatever the case may be. So you can't put anything really permanent there. And if we were to give a permission for the encroachment, would that establish that as something that the works department couldn't touch? Well, I don't think I want to go there. If they have to be there, they have to be there. And I don't want to give up the property if we will need it in the future.
We're quite jealous about even allowing parking on the road allowance, and that's not even a structure. This is a permanent structure. Shauna, just read the recommendation to us, please.
The one that you just made?
Yeah.
Be it resolved that the Village of Lions Bay Council denies the application for encroachment at 555 Upper Baby Road.
Okay, that says what I wanted to say. Any further discussion?
Wouldn't mind seeing your letter if you could email it around.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Do you want to defer resolution of the motion, of the recommendation, until we've seen the two things that I asked for from Anne, what other encroachments have been allowed and have been denied, and how many have been grandfathered? Because the 2004 encroachment bylaw speaks to grandfathering those that had been allowed before. Do you want to see that, or do you think we have enough information now?
Well, I think we have enough information, but I'd still like to see.
Yeah,
what
I'd like the
direction.
background, it's interesting, but there's enough here for me.
You ready for the question?
Mhm.
You sure?
Mhm.
Okay. So call the question, which is to deny the request for encroachment. All in favour of denial and opposed? It carries unanimously. You're welcome to have this. Unfortunately, we didn't get quite the kind of level, for the seriousness of this discussion, we didn't get quite the level
Is that
of...
your only copy?
Yeah, but it's from Anne, so go ahead. We didn't get quite the level of collateral I would have hoped for, let alone a staff recommendation in writing in the package. So I'll be discussing that with Anne, because this was late arising, but not that late. Okay. We'll move on to the 12D, page 91, age-friendly grant application. We more or less know about this, but Pam, give us the goods.
Yes, we had thought about applying for the 2016 age-friendly grant, but upon investigation, we realized it has to be for a completely new project. It couldn't be for the existing seniors project. We went ahead, just because of the tightness of the timeline, and drafted a grant, but as I was reading it, I was just uncomfortable that it was sort of putting the cart before the horse. It was, rather than having a project and then looking for funding, it's like we saw the funding and then look for a project to fit it. And often with these grants, there's ongoing costs, as we discovered with the age-friendly grant for the seniors program. The seniors program has been very successful, and we will probably want it to continue. But we are committed to continuing the seniors program, which we will accommodate through our municipal grant process. So I met with Mayor Burr on Friday, and we decided not to submit to the grant, and then further a recommendation was made to have a recommendation that council not pursue any future UBCM age-friendly project grants until the official community plan is completed and council has the information they need to determine the longer-term vision for the village.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to propose a slight wording change to the recommendation. So if I could do that and then move it, so we don't have to go through the whole parliamentary procedure again. I would suggest that we change the recommendation that council endorse the municipality not pursuing any future UBCM age-friendly grants, and then continue. Because it's not council that makes the application.
Yes, okay.
It is the municipality. So it's really just asking for a council's endorsement of not pursuing the grant, which is actually more to the point of what you're asking for, I think.
So that council
Endorse
will endorse
the
official
municipality
community-
not pursuing.
the municipality.
So just remove the words will not pursue and replace them with endorse the municipality not pursuing.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I can make that motion and ask for a second, and then we can discuss and vote on that one instead. Second? Thanks. Any further discussion? I mean, I did meet with Pam on Friday. I sent the note around. You're all aware of this. I don't think that there's much argument. Okay, call the question. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay, Pam, thanks. And good flag. That was,
A lot of stuff to get to this point.
yeah, that was necessary.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to public questions and comments. Scott, anything you'd like to say? You have another opportunity to speak for 2 minutes.
I'm curious about what you said about the whistle cessation. You said you were looking into that.
Okay, so that is a thing that CN or any federally regulated railroad does make available. There are many slips twixt the cup and the lip. Specifically, they talk about sight lines, sight as in vision lines, plus controlled crossings, plus a huge charge for their increased liability insurance premiums. I don't know what the numbers are, but the last I heard in West Van, which has somewhat of a grandfathered arrangement, they pay an extra $400,000 per crossing for the increase in liability insurance premium. So it's something that we can consider. I know they do it at Strachan and Ocean Point. Those are $4 million properties, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible, and we are looking at it.
Okay.
The wheels grind very slow. In fact, what's been done right now is that the municipality is writing to, who is it, Pam, do you remember? The people who, the federal government department that regulates railroads. That's the first step in the process. You request whistle cessation.
Yeah.
And then they go through some ombudsman, clearing group, blah, 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 blah. Never say never.
Okay. Dare to dream.
Write that down. Okay, good. Anything else? Deirdre? No. You sure? Okay, so we're going to move on to closed meeting, and I'll ask for a resolution. Everybody who shouldn't be here pretty soon. Thanks for coming, those who did. Cheers, Scott. Thanks for the input. That was great. So I move that the Village of Lionsburg Council does close the November 3rd 15 regular council meeting to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under section 91C, Labour Relations, Other Employee Relations of the Community Charter. May I have a second? All in favour, opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Thanks. Back to the regular meeting. It's 9:07, and the agenda is here. What? Where's the agenda? There it is. Reporting out from closed session. Nothing to report out. And a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favour? Opposed? Carried.